Have you ever picked up a house key, opened a door, used a spoon, fastened a belt, or reached for a small knife in the kitchen without thinking about it? Most of these things feel too ordinary to notice. They are not impressive inventions. They are not the kind of objects people place in the center of a museum room. They are small, practical, and easy to ignore. But that is exactly why they matter. Because long before electric lights, modern plumbing, soft mattresses, supermarkets, and central heating, people still had to solve the same little problems every day. They had to keep their homes shut. They had to carry food. They had to eat without wasting what they had. They had to fasten clothing, protect money, store tools, light a room, drink safely, and get through another cold evening with whatever was at hand. The medieval world was not built around comfort. It was built around repetition. The same chores, the same small repairs, the same objects used again and again until they became part of ordinary life. And some of those objects never really left. They became cleaner, cheaper, smoother, lighter, and easier to make. But the basic idea survived. So tonight, we are going to look at a few medieval things people used every day that quietly stayed with us. Not because they were glamorous, but because they worked. The first object is the key. In a medieval town or village, a key was not just a small piece of metal. It was a sign that something mattered enough to protect. A locked chest could hold coins, documents, cloth, tools, spices, or family possessions. A locked door could separate a household from the street. A locked storeroom could protect food that had taken months of work to grow, dry, salt, or preserve. For many ordinary people, a lock was not something attached to every door in the house. Locks were expensive. Ironwork took skill. A good lock could be heavy, visible, and valuable in itself. So when something was locked, it meant the contents had importance. The medieval key often looked more dramatic than the small flat key in a modern pocket. It could be long, heavy, and shaped with a large bow at the end so it could be held, hung, or carried on a belt. Some were simple. Some were beautiful. Some were made to fit complicated wards inside the lock, with shapes that had to match the hidden metal pattern inside. But the idea was already familiar. A person had a private space. A container had value. A door needed control. And a small object in the hand gave access. Today, a key may be a metal blade, a plastic card, a keypad code, or an app on the phone. But the old logic is still there. One object, one permission, one boundary between public and private. The second object is the spoon. The spoon is so ordinary that it almost disappears in the hand. But in the medieval world, it was one of the most personal eating tools a person could own. Forks were not common in much of medieval Europe for ordinary eating. Table knives existed, and people used fingers more than modern manners would allow. But spoons were useful for the foods that appeared again and again in daily life: pottage, broth, porridge, stewed vegetables, soft grains, beans, peas, and sauces. A spoon could be made from wood, horn, bone, pewter, or silver depending on wealth. A poor household might use simple wooden spoons worn smooth by years of use. A richer person might own a more decorated spoon, something that showed status at the table. But the reason for the spoon was not status first. It was survival and practicality. Much medieval food was cooked in pots. A single pot over a fire could feed a household. It could stretch grain, vegetables, herbs, and small amounts of meat into something warm and filling. And a spoon was the tool that made that food easy to eat. There is something quietly continuous about that. A modern kitchen may have stainless steel, dishwashers, and drawers full of utensils. But when someone eats soup on a cold night, the basic human action is almost unchanged. A bowl. A warm liquid meal. A hand lifting a spoon. The third object is the belt. Modern people often think of belts as simple clothing accessories. In the medieval world, a belt could be much more important. It held clothing in place, but it also carried the small world a person needed outside the home. Before pockets became common in the way we know them, belts helped carry pouches, knives, keys, tools, prayer beads, small containers, and sometimes money. A belt was not just decoration. It was a portable storage system. For a worker, the belt could keep tools close. For a traveler, it could hold a purse. For a household servant, it could carry keys or practical items needed throughout the day. For a person of higher status, belt fittings and buckles could show wealth through metalwork, decoration, and material. The belt also shaped how clothing worked. Medieval garments were often loose, layered, and adjustable. A belt could gather fabric, secure a tunic, support weight, and help the body move more easily during work. In other words, the belt solved the problem that modern clothing solved later with pockets, zippers, fitted cuts, and synthetic materials. Today, we still use belts for clothing. But the deeper idea is even wider. Tool belts, utility belts, backpacks with clipped attachments, phone holsters, and work aprons all repeat the same old principle. The body needs storage. The hands need to stay free. Useful things should stay close. The fourth object is the everyday knife. A medieval knife was not only a weapon. For most people, it was a tool. It cut food. It trimmed cord. It shaped wood. It opened packages. It helped with repairs. It might be used at the table, in the workshop, in the field, or on the road. Many people carried a small knife because daily life constantly required cutting. Before disposable packaging, factory-made parts, and specialized tools for every little task, one simple blade could solve many problems. At meals, a personal knife could be used to cut bread, meat, cheese, or fruit. At work, it might become part of countless small actions that are hard to see in records because they were too normal to mention. This is one of the quiet truths of old material life. The most important tools are often the ones that appear everywhere. A knife was useful because it was flexible. It did not do one job perfectly. It did many small jobs well enough. Modern kitchens are filled with specialized blades. Pocket knives still exist. Utility knives sit in drawers and workshops. Box cutters, craft knives, pruning knives, and multi-tools all carry part of the same idea. The world keeps producing new things that need to be cut, opened, shaped, trimmed, or repaired. So the small blade stays. The fifth object is the candle holder. Before electric light, darkness was not just an inconvenience. It shaped the rhythm of life. It decided when work became harder, when travel became dangerous, when reading was possible, when a room felt safe, and how long evening activities could continue. Candles were not always cheap. In many places, ordinary people relied more on the hearth, rushlights, oil lamps, or whatever light source was available. But the need was always the same: hold the flame safely, carry it carefully, and keep it from setting the home on fire. A candle holder, lamp, or simple light stand did more than lift a flame. It organized the room around a small center of visibility. Near that light, someone could mend clothing, prepare food, speak with family, count money, check a tool, or simply wait out the evening. The object itself could be plain or decorative. A simple holder might be iron, clay, wood, or brass. A wealthier household could have more refined lighting objects. But every version had to respect the same dangerous fact. Fire was useful, but fire escaped. That is why old lighting objects feel so practical. They are not only about seeing. They are about containing risk. Modern lamps do not usually threaten to burn the house down. But we still arrange rooms around light. We still place lamps near beds, desks, tables, and reading chairs. We still use light not only to see, but to create a safe circle in the dark. The sixth object is the cup. The medieval cup could be made from wood, clay, horn, leather, metal, or glass depending on place, wealth, and purpose. It might be plain enough for daily use or decorated enough for display. But again, the need was simple. People had to drink. Water, ale, wine, cider, milk, broth, and other drinks all required containers. In many communities, drinking vessels were part of work, hospitality, meals, travel, and social life. A cup could be shared, owned, carried, stored, washed, broken, repaired, or passed from hand to hand. Modern people often overlook how important containers are. Food and drink are not only about what is consumed. They are about how it is held, measured, served, and shared. In a medieval household, a cup was part of the table. In a tavern, it was part of exchange and conversation. In a monastery, it could be part of routine. In a noble hall, it could display rank and ceremony. Today, our cups are made by factories in countless shapes: glass, ceramic, plastic, paper, steel. But the object remains almost embarrassingly old in its purpose. A hollow form. A hand. A drink. The seventh object is the latch. A latch is not as symbolic as a key and not as visible as a door, but it may be one of the most important old objects in daily life. The medieval home needed ways to close things. Doors, gates, chests, shutters, animal pens, cupboards, and storage areas all needed simple mechanisms that could hold them shut. A latch did not always mean high security. Sometimes it simply meant control. Keep the wind out. Keep the animals in. Keep the door from swinging open. Keep children away from something. Keep the night outside for a little longer. This is the kind of object that almost never becomes famous. A latch is too humble. It is just a small solution to a problem that repeats all day. But that is why it survived. Modern homes still depend on latches, catches, hinges, handles, locks, hooks, and closures. Cabinets close. Gates click shut. Windows lock. Doors catch. Toolboxes fasten. Suitcases clasp. The design has changed, but the need is medieval and older. A world full of moving parts needs small promises that things will stay where they are put. The eighth object is the chest. Before modern closets, cabinets, built-in storage, plastic bins, filing cabinets, and bedroom furniture sets, the chest was one of the most important storage objects a household could own. A chest could hold clothing, blankets, documents, tools, coins, linens, books, or valuables. It could be moved. It could be locked. It could sit against a wall and serve as furniture. In some homes, it might be one of the most valuable objects in the room. The chest solved several problems at once. It protected things from dust, damp, theft, animals, and disorder. It gathered possessions into one known place. It made movement possible when a household or traveler needed to relocate goods. It also turned storage into something visible and physical. A modern person may have closets, drawers, safes, suitcases, storage units, and digital folders. But the old chest has not fully disappeared. We still use trunks, boxes, tool chests, storage benches, hope chests, lockboxes, and luggage. The need is the same. People gather more than they can carry in their hands. They need a place to put it. They need to find it again. They need to protect it from other people, from weather, from damage, and from the quiet chaos of daily life. And so the chest became one of those old objects that feels almost too simple to vanish. When you look at these medieval objects together, they do not seem dramatic. A key, a spoon, a belt, a knife, a candle holder, a cup, a latch, a chest. None of them explains a kingdom. None of them wins a battle. None of them sounds like the center of history. But ordinary life is mostly made from things like this: small tools, repeated actions, familiar problems, objects that do not need to be exciting because they are used too often to be noticed. The medieval world had very little of what we would call modern comfort. But it had the same human body, the same need for food and warmth, the same fear of darkness, the same desire for privacy, the same need to store possessions, and the same wish to make daily life a little easier. That is why these objects survived. Not always in the same material, not always in the same shape, but in the same idea. Every time you turn a key, lift a spoon, fasten a belt, close a latch, light a room, or put something away in a box, you are touching a problem that people were solving long before modern comfort arrived. The past is not only in castles, crowns, wars, and dates. Sometimes it is sitting quietly in your hand,